Yeah, I mean the Celtics are a prime, team for trade for, and let's just go into our second topic of what will the Celtics do at 3, because you're saying they could possibly trade it to go get Brandon Ingram. There's a lot of talks maybe possibly Jimmy Butler is going to be traded there because I think there's a package deal out there for the 3rd, Avery Bradley, Jay Crowder, and I think a couple other players going to the Bulls for Jimmy Butler.
Kevin Love.
I mean, there's a lot of options out here. What do you think the Celtics should do? Do you think they should try to trade up to get a Brandon Ingram if the Lakers aren't set on this guy?
They should trade all day, every day, because the one thing I feel with Boston, they're in this weird kind of spot where it's like, we've got the talent to be competitive in the East, but we don't have necessarily the talent to take on the Cavs or maybe take on even the Raptors. They don't have a superstar.
That's what it is.
You're not going to find that player in the draft that's going to boom year one.
Right.
Just bring you up, ascend you up to that level. That's why it's like, fuck it. We got these picks from the Nets. Let's use them and make Brooklyn hate this draft. Let them hate the trade that they ever took the big 3 away from us.
See, when I look at the Celtics team, I mean, the Chad Ford mocked Jaylen Brown going to the Celtics here. He used to have Jamal Murray, and now there's a lot of questions about Jamal Murray's athleticism and his possible not being able to be like an okay defender at worst. Like there's a lot of talks about his possible woes defensively. But if you look at Jaylen Brown, I mean, the thing is I think what Chad Ford's trying to make is selecting Jaylen Brown there is if they can't find a superstar to trade for, draft a guy who you think has the most potential to turn into that superstar down the road.
And I will say, if there's anybody in the NBA that I think could, and I've made my opinions about Brown known, if there's anybody in the NBA that could work with him as a head coaching standpoint, it's Brad Stevens.
Yeah, Brad Stevens has an excellent touch when it comes to bringing up young talent and getting them NBA ready and even growing them further than a lot of teams think they could get. So
I mean, look at Isaiah Thomas. He was one man's trash, and now he's Boston's treasure.
Isaiah wasn't bad before that.
Yeah, but Phoenix was openly to getting rid of him, and now he's the treasure of Boston. That's just because
Phoenix was
dumpster fire.
Yeah, Phoenix is a dumpster fire.
They don't know what they're doing. So
I mean,
that's more on them. But I mean, it was a great steal by the Celtics to get him.
Yeah,
no one's gonna argue that.
When I look at Jaylen Brown going to the Celtics, I think I like the fit because you need a 3, and it's going to bring a lot of athleticism to this team. But then that's going to kind of push out Jay Crowder out of the starting lineup. And that's a guy who is really valuable for you this whole season. And maybe you don't put Brown in right away because you're still a playoff team. You don't want to throw in a rookie right away.
Right.
I think the best option would be to trade for him, and we went over the Kevin Love stuff. But then again, I'm kind of questioning. I mean, does Cleveland value Kevin Love at the number 3 overall pick, and would they even want the number 3 overall pick? And then there's trade talks of possibly throwing Carmelo into this, and Carmelo going to Cleveland, and Caleb going to Boston, and Boston sending the number 3 pick to the Knicks.
Literally, just take a dart, throw it at a board of team names, and basically call it a trade. Yeah,
it's kind of like the Kevin Durant thing. We're making 28 other videos about why Kevin Durant will be the perfect fit. I mean, it's hard to see what the Celtics would do. I mean, that's going to make for a really interesting draft because, I mean, once the number 2 pick passes and there's not a trade, we're going to be like, all right, what's happening? What's going on? And, if we'll probably be looking 3 days before the draft, we'll be looking on Monday, then, trade talks will start to get serious. But I look at guys like Jimmy Butler, and I feel like he's just not going to be traded. Like, in my gut, I feel like either the Bulls are going to panic and trade, undervalue Butler and get rid of him, or they're just going to hold on to him because they know what Jimmy Butler is. So I feel like it's either going to be a bad trade for the Bulls and not getting the right amount of value, whether he's going to Minnesota or Boston, or the Bulls just holding on to him. So it's hard to say that the Celtics are going to acquire a guy like Jimmy Butler. With K Love, I feel like the Cavs really overvalue him or still want to, hold on to him just because of, the part of ushering the new LeBron era in, and that was kind of ushering the new era, and especially if they win a finals. I mean, that's going to be different there because then there's not going to be really a blame to put anyone because you won the finals.
Yeah, but I still think that
I think
he doesn't fit. He doesn't fit well.
He doesn't
in there. But I mean, with the Celtics, to me, trading the pick should be the number one
best
kind of concern because, well, not really a concern because you're a good team sitting at a prime spot where a bad team would sit.
Yeah.
AKA the Nets.
You don't get this opportunity very often.
But if you are going to pick a guy, I have to disagree with Chad Ford. Jaylen Brown, to me, isn't the guy. I don't know why he switched from Jamal Murray. I think Jamal Murray is the guy at number 3.
It's the decent. I think it's because Jaylen Brown does have so much athleticism to him, and so that means he has a higher ceiling, which means working with a coach like Brad Stevens will help him develop that superstar potential.
This team it's kind of asks the question of how long do you think it's going to take for Jaylen Brown to get there because this is a team, like I said, they are in the hunt, and I'm not going to say, oh, they draft this one guy and they can take on the Cavaliers. The window, we've seen it in Chicago. That trade, that kind of title window can slam on your fingers as quickly as it opens.
Slam on my knee, but, big deal, whatever.
See, with like Jaylen Brown, I agree that he won't be an instant producer for you. And, but maybe with a team like Boston, with Isaiah, when his contract runs up, you might not be able to re-sign him because he'll probably want a ton of money. Mm-hmm. You might not be able to establish that same core, but if you establish a guy like Jaylen Brown right away, and if he's not able to develop right away, you're still going to be a playoff team in Boston. And then once those guys, that current era gets ushered out because of contracts and all this stuff, then you could bring in a guy like Jaylen Brown and build your team around him. So, I mean, if they keep the pick, I wouldn't bash the Celtics for picking Jaylen Brown because of his potential. But then again, it's not the best pick. I think Jamal Murray is easily the third best prospect. I think he should be taken number 3 just because of his age. And if you're working with a guy like Brad Stevens, I'm going to say this in my next mock draft that's coming out, with working with a guy like Brad Stevens, he'll be able to teach you, defensive positioning. And if you're on a team like Boston, you're going to be able to hide your defensive flaws around that team just because they are so good defensively. So I look at a guy like Jamal Murray, and if he's not able to develop his defensive game so greatly, I mean, look at JJ Redick. JJ Redick has not been ever like super exposed because of the Clippers' just defense in general. I mean, the Clippers play great defense, but JJ Redick's terrible on defense. So, I mean, guys like JJ Redick, you can cover their defensive flaws with great defenders around them, and the Celtics do have that. I think Jamal Murray would be the best pick here just because of his potential and just because of his shooting. I think Jamal Murray is easily the best pick here. So if they keep it, I say go Jamal Murray, but I think everyone agrees that they should trade this pick.
I'm with you on that. I think trade would be number 1 option for them if they're in a win-now mode. Otherwise, it's a luxury. Look, like you said, they're in the playoff hunt already. They're up there. They're a top 4 team in the East. And at this point, it's pure luxury. Okay, well, like you said, if we pick up Jaylen Brown, well, he's not going to start for us day 1 because we've already got talent in that spot. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, look, if this is a guy with a potential that is at the top of the charts, star potential, why not let him grow into that position over time? He can do that behind there. He can do that coming off the bench. It's not a huge pressure on him. It's an easier environment for him to learn on. And at the same time, I do want to agree with you about Jamal Murray because I think that's a better fit even. Mm-hmm. And you still have coverage. You're still not under the gun time-wise.
And one thing with Jamal Murray, I mean, if you do put him in that second lineup, you could have still Isaiah Thomas and Avery Bradley out there in the first row, and then you can go with Marcus Smart, who's a great defender.
Exactly.
And then you can have Jamal Murray.
You have that offensive-defensive pairing for both your 1s and your 2s. I think it's genius.
Or to piggyback off of what we talked about to start the podcast, maybe do they have to trade for a veteran, or can the Celtics go, fuck it. We want Brandon Ingram. Let's make a package that the main goal is to get the number 2 pick to get Ingram.
I think it could happen, but you're obviously going to need to throw in more Nets picks and stuff. I think it's going to take a lot to get that to move up. The 3 and the 16 would be the core. Yeah, I think
that would be the core of that trade.
I think you would need help though to jump up from
Definitely.
3 to 2.
Because I think the one that I know Chad Ford came out with an article, and this one's crazy because Russell and Randall would go over to the Celtics, but. Mm-hmm. I mean, he threw in the 3 and the 16, and then players like Jerebko, Hunter, and Mickey.
Yeah, for D'Angelo Russell and Julius
Randle. But for the 2, maybe you can get away with, maybe the 3, the 16, and then next year's Brooklyn Nets pick.
On draft day, do they keep it or trade it?
Trade it.
I'm thinking they're going to keep it. They're going to go with Murray.
I say they're going to keep it too. I feel like there's not going to be a deal done, or they're going to draft someone who a team likes, and then they're going to make a trade beyond that.
Yeah,
I think
somebody hostage.
Yeah, I think they might draft for a team and then just trade those prospects after the fact. I don't think they're going to get a trade done before draft day or on draft day. Now
Boston's getting a superstar. That's what I was going to say.
Boston, yeah, I think I agree with you. I think some way or another they're going to get a superstar. Maybe it's KD. Maybe we'll make a video on KD going to Boston.
Absolutely. Next video up.